I want to make sure the committee is clear about a few things. News reports have claimed that I'm anti-vaccine or anti-industry. I am neither. I am pro-safety.
A contentious hearing today. The president's pick to lead Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., making his case on Capitol Hill. But as lawmakers consider his nomination, Hawaii's Democratic governor, Josh Green, has a message for them, arguing that his confirmation, Kennedy's confirmation, in his view, could have deadly consequences. Governor Josh Green is here on set with us now. Governor, thanks for being here. Let's play a clip of Carolyn Kennedy, the daughter of President John F. Kennedy, speaking about Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Bobby is addicted to attention and power. Bobby preys on the desperation of parents of sick children, vaccinating his own kids while building a following hypocritically discouraging other parents from vaccinating theirs.
So, Governor, you have a member of the Kennedy family, an esteemed ambassador, daughter of a president, criticizing Robert F. Kennedy Jr. You have Democratic senators today doing the same. You had Robert F. Kennedy Jr., though, saying today that he is not anti-vaccine. He was making different statements throughout his testimony today about how he couches his position in terms of mandates for vaccines and how his position, in his view, is a bit varied when it comes to the exact nature of how he looks at this issue. As someone who governs a state, someone who has to deal with real-world problems, real-world health issues, what did you make of his testimony today?
It was nonsense. I mean, I don't want to be too cruel. I respect the person and the family, but I've had interactions, kind of cross paths with RFK Jr., and it's not true. First of all, I'm a physician, okay? I'm the only physician that's a governor. And what happened in Samoa was relevant. There's 40,000 Samoans that live in Hawaii. That nation is close to Hawaii. They had the measles outbreak 5 years ago. He rolled through that nation and scared them, discouraged them, talked to their prime minister. I know that because I went in to clean up the mess. I took the medical mission into Samoa, 75 doctors and nurses, and we vaccinated 37,000 people after there had been many deaths, ultimately 83 deaths. And he did scare them. They told me personally that he basically had come in and wanted to do this kind of experiment to see what would happen naturally if you just let this virus, and measles virus is very contagious, roll through. And you also had 5,000 people get sick, and they get encephalopathy, which is swelling of the brain. They can get blindness or deafness from the virus. So he did that. And then he came and told the Congress, no, I'm not anti-vax. Well, he is. He founded an organization that is anti-vax. He got paid millions of dollars by that organization to, kind of go and spin that gospel. So he may not be specifically telling people don't get this vaccine, but he's sowing doubt. And when you sow doubt, the vaccine rates drop, and then you get lots of spread because you don't have herd immunity. That's what he did in Samoa. So that was a dishonest hearing. I don't know what to tell you. People in Washington seem to play the partisan thing, but this is going to kill kids.
Let's listen to what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. had to say to our CBS colleague, Major Garrett, in the past year on this issue.
I had nothing to do with it. And if you actually looked at what happened in Samoa, the people who died were dying not from measles, but almost certainly from a defective vaccine that was brought in from Australia and then given to children who were already sick, which you should never do.
That was right before he dropped out of the presidential race. What's your response to how he's approaching this?
Well, he's not taking any responsibility. We have footage from his own feeds, his own social media, from other people's feeds, that he was there, yucking it up, smiling, laughing with the prime minister. He did do that. He did go in there and discourage people. And it just takes a nudge for people who are vaccine hesitant. And then he spread misinformation. What really happened was 2 children died because they were given the wrong reagent, which was a tragedy, human error. Those 2 nurses were prosecuted and sentenced. Then he went in and told people, and he said it again, by the way, today in the hearing. I hope you'll be able to roll footage in the coming days. He said today, the measles vaccine killed those 2 children. That's not true. The measles reagent killed them. The vaccine was fine. And then we used these vaccines to vaccinate 37,000 people in 2 days, and the measles stopped. So he's telling lie after lie, misinformation after misinformation. And this is the person who, with no experience, no training, will be in charge of the Health and Human Services Department, which is huge, $1.7 trillion.
So his nomination is still very much to be determined. But let's say Mr. Kennedy is confirmed by this Republican-controlled Senate. Will you work with HHS and a potential Secretary Kennedy on policy?
Well, I'm going to vaccinate people. I had to deal with that, of course, in the last administration when people were allowing misinformation about the COVID vaccine, and I had to continuously press for the vaccine. Of course, I will work with everyone. I actually worked at HHS. I was a National Health Service Corps scholar, a physician that was sent to Hawaii to provide health care. So, of course, I will work with anybody, but it's not good to nominate people that have no experience in their discipline, and it's not good to put someone in there who will misrepresent. This is a guy who's getting paid, and everyone knows it. Everyone knows it, to thwart vaccination programs. He admitted it today that he was paid by these guys and still wants to get paid. We have all the footage, so I don't know how anyone with a straight face could say it. He created an organization called the Children's Health Defense, which is a pure anti-vax group. They're selling onesies, as Bernie pointed out, that says, "Don't vaccinate me," or something. This is an organization he founded. So has the world gone mad that we are going to suggest that this guy is actually okay with vaccinations? He will again place doubt into the field, and then we will see outbreaks.
Finally here, Governor, the Democratic Party, your party, in the political wilderness, not controlling the House, the Senate, or the White House. Jimmy Carter, former president of the United States, an outsider, came out of nowhere in 1976. A lot of people in Washington are wondering, come 2028, could it be another outsider who emerges this time around, decades later, to give the Democratic Party a new voice? You're a physician, a governor, someone who's probably as far away as you can get from Washington, D.C., though maybe the Alaskan governor would have a bit of an argument there as well.
Yes.
Are you considering at all a presidential conversation for yourself in the coming years?
I mean, that's incredibly flattering. I'm proud to be a doctor and a governor. It seems highly unlikely. I'm going to be governor through 26, and if the people will have me through 2030, you'd have to really convince my wife, frankly, to do anything like that. But I will always help the people here in D.C., and you never know how the world will turn. But I really am honored to be governor of Hawaii because geopolitically, we're actually a lot more central to what the nation does. We handle the Pacific region. We will deal with what comes out of Taiwan and China's conflicts. And as you can see, everyone loves Hawaii. We've even had to deal with some of the largest crises, and we're helping people that are in other states that are dealing with wildfires now and so on. So, look, it's an honor that you would say something like that. But
well, you're a governor of a key state that has to deal with a lot of different issues. It's not trying to honor you in any way, but this is a party that clearly has no evident standard bearer at this point. Well, and you're a sitting governor in a party that doesn't have many sitting governors.
What I'll do is I will help us lead, and I'll help the whole country lead. I'm afforded a really special honor, which is that it's very nonpartisan for me as the governor of Hawaii. So a lot of Democrats support me, and a ton of Republicans have been supportive. I try to damp down the division, and I'd like to do that for the country. Right now, as a governor with the other governors, we have a governors association, and I really like to create bonds there. So one never knows, but I'm happy to be governor.
Governor Josh Green of Hawaii, we really appreciate you taking the time. Thanks for coming by CBS News.